caves of France, and there you have the same dancing figure. Now we come to another extraordinary thing. In the great cave of Lascaux in the Dordogne, in what's called the Rotunda, an enormous chamber, there's a frieze of animals runs along here, and over on the left corner is this strange beast with these strange horns. No animal in the world looks like that. And yet these artists can paint animals in a way that no one's been able to paint them since. So what did they have in mind here? We will go to Australia. It's remarkable, the continuity from these caves to Australia and what we can find. And here is an Australian elder with the same pointing sticks, they're called there, and here are two more. Now the pointing stick has been described at length by Geza Roheim in his study of Australian psychology. The pointing stick is a negative phallus. Instead of generating, it kills. And with certain whispered magical charms, it is pointed as between the legs in the direction of the enemy. And the enemy will then be killed by being ripped open from the rectum to the genitals. We go now back to Lascaux. We go down into the crypt, a lower chamber, and this famous image appears. This definitely is a shaman. He's got the masked head of a bird on his bâton de commandement. We have a bird form. Here is the erect phallus, the negative phallus, the pointing stick, and by miracle, a lance has struck through the animal master here, which is a bison, and opened up his guts exactly as the pointing stick would have worked. This particular figure has brought about a great deal of discussion. Some of the writers have suggested it represents a hunting accident. That is ridiculous. Well, what we know about magic would indicate that if a hunting accident were depicted in the most sacred place of a sacred cave, it would produce hunting accidents by sympathetic magic. What it certainly represents is the bison. The principal animal of the hunt is the principal animal master. The bison invoked in the name of the covenant, animals giving their life willingly through the power of the shaman, and thus killed. That's the best explanation I can find of this event. And now the whole idea of the men's sacred ground, the men's cave, is continued in ceremonial huts, which are associated with the rebirth. And you see the tiny little door, as though this were the vulva. And one goes in to the mother body, and everything inside is magical. We're in a magical field. The men who are in there are not this individual, that individual, another individual. They are in a role. They are, as the people in Brazil would say, they are here menstruating. And say they are the experiences now of the energy of nature coming through them. And so we come to Notre Dame de Chartres, our mother church, the mother body. And when you're in there, you're in the magic realm again. The imagery is that of dream. The imagery is that of myth. The imagery is that of reference to transcendence. And here, on the west portal of Chartres, here is the mandorla, actually symbolic of the vulva and the womb, and the second coming, the birth from this. And then just as there was the great prime magician, so we have Pope Innocent III. Now there are two ways of coming into this role. One is temporarily for the ceremony, or another is permanently. Here is a Maori chieftain permanently in the role. That's tattooing. And his whole body is tattooed like that. He's got a magical body. That is to say, the stained glass windows and incense and all have been imprinted on him. He's in the cathedral all the time, you might say. His life is that of a mythological role.
Joe Campbell began talking about the differences, physical and psychological, between women and men. These differences are recognized in the mythic symbols of our prehistoric ancestors. We've seen mythic forms of the female body that demonstrate, perhaps, that very early on women noticed that the rhythms of their bodies coincide with the rhythms of the universe. Likewise, prehistoric cave art depicts the initiation of boys who are ritually transformed from an adolescent to a mature, responsible adult. So much for the first crisis. Campbell now turns to the second.
This is marriage, where one becomes, in one's